I was thinking about buying this game, but I wanted to watch the review first, so here's my little reaction. Dogma 2, 10 months ago. I never played the first one, and I was thinking about buying that one too, so I'm probably going to watch both the reviews and then make up my mind, but they seem like cool games. What is that? Is that on Crunchyroll? Yep, Crunchyroll. Okay. Alright.
Dragon's Dogma 2 reminds me of Sam Raimi's Evil Dead 2, which was more of a remake of his first cult classic comedy horror movie than a sequel. The much bigger budget allowed Raimi to really dial in his true vision for Ash's bad night with the bad book. Like Evil Dead 2, Dragon's Dogma 2 doesn't stray too far from the blueprint that turned it into a cult classic of its own over the past decade, keeping its second-to-none action design and vague but robust and alluring world as its centerpieces. Like the 2012 original, it is unforgiving out of the gate thanks to brutal enemies and chaotic encounters that are not designed to gradually ease you in. It's also high levels of janky. All of its systems seem precariously fitted together with the fragility of a well-pruned Jenga tower. Yet, remarkably, it never falls over, and its open-ended design allows for a barely controlled chaos that makes some of its inconveniences almost feel intentional. Almost. New dark fantasy world is dense with unbeaten paths to wander down and secrets to find. Many of these will never make themselves known to you if you don't go out of your way to look for them.
Well done, Risen One.
Early on, simply walking from quest point to quest point through the verdant forests or dusty crags is a huge risk, as the wilds of Dragon's Dogma 2 are filled with creatures who would love to make you lunch. While lots of open-world games with day-night cycles stress the dangers of venturing out when the moon is high, I don't know of any other game that has a more brutal night than this one.
Wake up! We're being raided!
The explicit lack of waypoints and map markers for the side stories really helps nail the feeling that you aren't simply a walking task bot for the world's NPCs to wind you up, but a curious member of a living, breathing place that will march on valiantly whether you find what you're looking for or not. You'll be doing lots of backtracking and exploring on foot, as there is very little way of convenient fast traveling. In the first few hours, having any squabble evolve into a rolling melee with every other beast within a square mile became annoyingly commonplace. Skirmishing goblins trying to keep their distance from you and harass you at range might attract the attention of an ogre who now must mosh through the combat. And
the magic looks fun. It's reminding me of Elden Ring, and it's making me want to play Elden Ring, but the magic actually looks funner than Elden Ring's.
And in turn, this attracts the eye of a griffin to dive bomb the encounter like a feathery wrecking ball. It's a tough learning curve, but it eventually gives way to a rewarding feeling of a stronger, smarter you walking through a valley that gave you heartache 10 hours ago and navigating it like a well-oiled machine. This dynamism is present in Dragon's Dogma 2's story and quests as well. I wouldn't call the main story at large that remarkable. You play as the near-immortal Chosen One, the Arisen, who has their heart stolen by a dragon that you will be forced to slay one day in order to save the world.
You fell that fiend!
It's the exact same premise as the original Dragon's Dogma, with a bit of a Game of Thrones-esque spin in the political intrigue that is good, if not all that special in a world where every fantasy story has similar influences. But on a couple of occasions, Dragon's Dogma 2 takes a major turn and upends what you've come to know and expect so far, and the characters themselves gave me something to love even outside of that larger plot.
I speak only the truth, as you well know.
The first time you walk into a city, you'll be bombarded with people who are happy to see such a capable-looking problem solver in their midst. Many of the quests that they offer you are pretty mundane RPG fare, but some at least put a twist on the genre staples by adding time limits or unclear consequences. Yes, you just got 3 quests at once, but if one involves saving a kid from a pack of wolves, the clock is ticking down until he becomes dinner, so you'd best prioritize accordingly. Every Arisen is accompanied by a pawn, a sort of personal NPC sidekick whose purpose is to assist you on your journey. Pawns are invaluable because they can take on a class, which Dragon's Dogma calls vocations, and be another body in battle.
Harpies, master. 'Tis weak to fire.
Outside of fights, they're great for tasks like gathering resources and pointing out things of note in your surroundings. They did all these things in the original game as well, but new specializations can highlight harvesting spots in your map, organize the party's inventory, or even craft on their own, which means
It looks cool. Sounding kind of complicated, I guess, a little bit.
they can add so much more value this time around.
I'd gladly see you put what I find to good use.
Pawns can even be sent off to join other players on their adventures, learn from their experiences, and bring back items and knowledge. There's still not much out there like it. They aren't always a boon, though. I'd never want to leave shelter without one. But thanks to inconsistent AI, pawns can get themselves into all sorts of trouble. Thank you, Master. They often get isolated by enemies and picked off, which means you need to run to their unconscious bodies to revive them, or they'll poof out of your world. Pawns die in pretty silly ways, mostly by falling off of narrow bridges because they made the terrible choice to fight in the middle of them.
Looks like a huge, like, world. Looks like Red Dead Redemption type map.
You can command them to help you, wait in place, etc., but these orders are finicky, and they'll take their sweet, agonizing time to follow them.
Defend the Arisen.
I've never seen anyone actually play this game, so it's gonna... The combat sounds kind of hard. It seems kind of hard.
Usually pawns are at least competent, though, and they ensure that combat is king in Dragon's Dogma 2. When it clicks, it is peerless among its action RPG contemporaries. The swinging, shooting, and chopping feels solid and satisfying every time you make contact. How you fight naturally depends on your vocation, and fans of this series will be relieved to find out that other than separating the melee and ranged portions of the old Strider class into 2 separate options, the returning vocations are just as excellent and diverse as they were in the previous game. Expressive animations and skill diversity ensure...
Yeah, I think I'm gonna choose like a... I assume there's like warrior, ranger, and like sorcerer, so I'd probably choose a sorcerer.
That even if a vocation has a singular role it can play in battle, there's more than one way to play it. Of the new vocations, the Mystic Spearhand is my favorite. It prioritizes closing distance and burst offense over impenetrable defense. Another standout, the Trickster uses illusions and deceptions to make enemies fight each other. And for my money, is the "you smoke too tough, your swag too different" meme in physical form.
We must do whatever we can to knock it off.
No matter your vocation, there's a huge Monster Hunter influence on combat as well, appropriately since a chunk of the combat design team at Capcom works on both series. Large monsters and even smaller ones have many possible targets of interest on their body, like a Cyclops.
Yeah, I think I'd like this game better than Monster Hunter or whatever. I tried to play that, and I didn't like the art style much. And, yeah, a couple other things about it.
Eye or a Saurian's tail. Targeting them could do more damage, stun them more regularly, or take that limb off, completely altering the enemy's attack patterns and possibly granting more loot. I rejoiced in how impactful choosing to spend the effort to take these kinds of advantages always felt, especially when you're fighting groups of big enemies and need to thin the herd quickly. On the other hand, I don't approve of how janky climbing enemies feels, something you'll be doing often to bring larger foes down to size. It's easy to get disoriented while climbing through no real fault of your own, and if the monster jumps into a corner or pressures you against the wall, the camera reveals itself as having been the true villain all along, making it absolutely impossible to see what's going on for as long as you're stuck there. More than once, I have taken big damage or even died because I was body blocked by my foes, and that has never been a good way for a fight to end. Even if I'm not getting bullied out of the shot, as the numbers of the combatants pick up, you can watch the frame rate slowly diminish. Not ideal for a game where success in combat can be so heavily dependent on timing your attacks, blocks, and dodges. Never got too bad for me, but it was noticeably chuggy, which made a game that can be hard to read due to all the things going on screen at once just that much more illegible. Dragon's Dogma 2 is a strange and wonderful game that seems haunted by some of yesteryear's bugaboos. It is a retelling and re-implementation of all of those wonderful ideas from the 2012 cult classic, including an awesome dynamic world and some of the best combat in the genre. On the other hand, its finicky ally AI, clunky climbing, choppy frame rate, and camera with a habit of going haywire at the worst times are all features I wish hadn't been brought back for another round. Even so, there's an action RPG here that is richly rewarding and incomparable to its contemporaries if you can be patient with its quirks and open to embracing its hands-off open world and quest designs.
So yeah, I think they got both these games on sale. They got the original game with the expansion, all-inclusive game on sale, and then I think this Dragon's Dogma 2 is on sale also. So I'm thinking about it, still thinking about buying it. I mean, might as well, it's on sale. Fucking looks fun, right guys? Fucking alright. I'm gonna take a nap. I'm tired. Peace.